I remember one show that got me hooked immediately on Toonami, Rurouni Kenshin, a former samurai assassin who vows to never kill again and gets a reverse blade sword since bashing someone's skull faster than the eye can see is fine. I was glued to the show back in the day, but oddly enough, we did not get any games for it because they all stayed in Japan. So, as someone who likes to look back and play every single game of these old forgotten series, I played every one of them to see what we missed out on. The first Rurouni Kenshin game ever released was Ishin Gekitō Ken, I'm going to call it Ishin for short. It's a simple 3D fighter that looks very similar to Tekken or Virtua Fighter. For a story, we have an arcade mode that goes through the first arc of the show. It retells everything in clips and screenshots from the anime. It's all in Japanese of course, and sadly, there is no subtitles. So, my trusty phone translator could not work here. But if you know the anime, you know the story. Gameplay wise, it's an old 3D fighter. You're given 2 attack buttons and 2 block buttons. It's not even different blocks. It's just the same block on 2 different face buttons. Can't add any more features to this game as 2 attack buttons and 2 rolls is too much for the player. There are special moves you can do and they're not too complicated. Mostly consist of quarter motion levels of inputs. Not much to the game besides the story mode that is 6 or 7 fights if you do it in hard mode, a versus mode, and an arcade mode you can do with any character. Once you get all the characters, you have 10 playable characters, with one of them being Sanosuke with his huge blade that puts Sephiroth and Klaus to shame. It's like if both blades got combined into one. In the end, it's an old 3D fighter that has aged poorly. The best thing this game has going for it was that you could play as Kenshin, but this becomes pointless as we get better games. However, let's look at another PS1 game that tried to be different from the rest. Rurouni Kenshin Conspiracy of the 10 Braves is a game with an original story where you get to pick between a boy or a girl who has amnesia. It's a generic way to add an original story to an already established world. You basically run around the world helping Kenshin's gang solve problems happening around town, starting with a group of 3 girls hypnotizing people around the town that are causing trouble. You help them around in these turn-based RPG fights. It's these one-on-one fights where you play rock, paper, scissors against your opponent. You get to choose between high, medium, or low attacks where one beats the other. To give you some strategy into your decision making, you can see how many of each type of attack the enemy will do, and on the bottom you can see what the order they will do with some of the attacks. You can try to deduce which attacks will happen when, or based on the type of attacks, how you can minimize the amount of damage. However, you can't mitigate every damage in a sequence, and you'll be making some decisions that end up just being 50-50 chances. I love me some gambling in games, but when it's forced into every fight, it gets frustrating. One thing that throws a wrench into this whole system is the special moves. They can beat every regular move and can only be parried or beaten by another special move. It has a meter, so you can't abuse it. One other thing that seems like it's ripe for abuse is that you can use one item before each turn without any penalty, besides the cost of the item. Some fights are also party fights. Here you both choose the fighters to fight in a specific order and they stay until they are defeated. Like most RPGs, you get to walk around to get equipment and talk to people and even talk to the chickens. As the story was progressing, I figured it was just me walking around the town, but the game has a whole overworld to it. They even have random encounters, which feels odd with the one-on-one gamble battles this game has. It's an RPG that tries to be different, but in the end the gameplay amounts to a lot of fights having you do 50-50 chances with rock, paper, scissors. I will give it some credit for trying to be different, but it went a bit too far. Let's now jump to the only PS2 release this series had. Rurouni Kenshin Kyoto Circle of Hell covers the anime's second and probably the show's most iconic season, the Kyoto arc. You get to play through the arc with 3 different character perspectives. It tells the story through the slideshow text scrolls and a few in-game character models standing around and talking. I do wish they moved around with the in-game characters. I always loved the PS2 character models just doing shit. Instead, you can make them fight a bunch of enemies. The game is a 3D beat 'em up. You have a light and a heavy attack. You combine the attacks to do combos with them, and if you want to avoid taking hits, you can guard or dodge. There is, however, the best part of this game, that is the stance mode. If you press it, you take a stance and your movement is more limited, but makes the game more reaction based. I think this mode is so much better than the free roam beat 'em up thing. It stopped being a button masher and now your moves are more deliberate and intentional. It's not the most in-depth combat, but it gives that cool striking at the right moment that all these sword fight shows have. Sadly, you can only use these on one-on-one sections, which I wish the game had more of. It works even better when you combine it with special moves that you can do and this slow down mechanic the game has when you take too much damage. It's a way to get you to orientate yourself if you're getting a beating. After every fight you get points to add to stats, but something that caught me by surprise is that you can save the points and they accrue interest. You know? Like stocks? I know I'm getting old when I was excited for this. However, the one thing that surprised me in the opposite direction is this game's overworld. It's mostly traveling around these small areas with a few NPCs who will give you side missions that you will have to do. The reason you have to do them is because the game's progression is killing time. A certain amount of time has to progress to continue the story. This is probably one of the worst ways to have your players do side missions, that they even had a specific character you can talk to just skip to the next story point sometimes. Other times you just have to do things or just move around to kill time. It could have been fun if I didn't have to hold up my phone the whole time and refresh the app to translate the game's text. It's not a very long story in the end, and once you finish it, you unlock a new character, giving you 4 characters you can play as from their perspective. They all play differently, so it feels like you're not playing the same story over and over. Sanosuke uses his fist, and Saito does not move in stance mode, and Aoshi, he just flies everywhere. On top of that, there is the survival mode that you can play. I like this game. After playing the last 2 games, this one was refreshing. It's a 3D beat 'em up that had things I enjoyed, like the stance mode. Its progression timer is odd, but this could be because of having to do the extra step of translating it since it was in Japanese. It was definitely worth a try, but let's see what happens when the series tries to become a 2D fighter instead. Rurouni Kenshin Saisen is the first game released on the PSP. Its story goes through the first 2 arcs, ending with the Kyoto arc. I like the art direction. It's cel shaded, making the game look like a manga panel or a drawing. Sadly, there are no cutscenes of any kind and the usual character stills and text scrolls over screenshots. However, between rounds, the characters do talk to each other. I know games where they talk before and after, but not in between. Before you get to that point, you have to beat them. This game is a 2D fighter with 3 attack buttons, a light, medium, and a heavy attack. Most combos are done by combining the 3 attack buttons, which you can end with a special attack. Special moves are also done with the basic Hadouken and Dragon Punch motion. Its most unique feature is a Divine Flash. Every character can go into the state that slows down enemies, allowing you to combo them freely. You get 3 uses and it feels like a cool finisher or comeback mechanic that you can use in the fight. One move that is unique to every character is the stance. If you press the up button, not sure who thought that was the best button for this, you go into a stance and each character does something different. One will counter, another is a quick attack, and others will sheath their sword. Kenshin, for example, will do a quick draw attack that when it connects will make the opponent drop their weapon. Some characters are completely handicapped without their swords, like Kenshin, while others, like Sanosuke's, are ready to throw hands. After you beat the story mode, you earn money that can be used to purchase swords for the characters. It will give you a small stat boost, but more importantly, give the weapons a whole new look. Another way to earn money is through Infinite Assuran. This is basically a horde mode you can do with a few characters. It's not the best since enemies are weak, and your best bet is to keep doing repetitive moves to last as long as possible. Once you complete the game, you have a total of 24 characters to play as. They even let you play as Anishi, who is part of the next arc after the Kyoto one, which is like a cool teaser. It's a fun fighting game. It has some unique features like the Divine Flash and stance, but it does not have much depth in its combat. It covers the story, but it's just talking cutouts with a subpar horde mode. Let's see what happens when they release the sequel for this game. Rurouni Kenshin Kaizen is the sequel to the last game. It did this cool thing where you get extra money and unlock all the characters already had in the previous game. I love these loyalty reward programs games used to have in the past. Story mode right away shows the improvement in this game. You now have a much more fleshed out story mode compared to the last game. It goes through every major fight from the beginning to the last arc, the Jinchu arc. What was that? Hokkaido arc? Never heard of her. You get the same text scrolls and cutouts talking, but before fights you get a list. These are things you can do in a fight, like special moves or 10-hit combos to make the story mode replayable. Interestingly enough, once you beat the story mode, you get another one, but this one's just the Kyoto arc again. This one's based off the OVA that was released around the same time, and the game uses the higher quality animations retelling that story. While it is retelling the story, you do get to do new fights. Speaking of fighting, the gameplay is basically the same. Its biggest change is the stance and the jump button were swapped. Thank goodness. So now you press a face button for stance and up to jump. One minor but great change is that you have a double health bar. Hits basically do the same amount of damage as before, but since it looks like a lot more damage is done, the hits feel more impactful. Weapons can be bought and leveled up again, but the menu is a lot more presentable. Infinite Assurance also makes a comeback. It's the same thing as before, but now you can do it with all the characters, which will get your character count to 32. It's mostly adding characters from the Jinchu arc and Team Yahiko. That's neat. This game is an improved version of Saisen. It has the same good gameplay the first game had, but with improved presentation, a better story, and 32 character roster with the Jinchu arc. While these are the official games released, there was also a fan game. Rurouni Kenshin Sword and Soul is a fan game that runs on the Mugen engine. Has been in development for a long time by Aoshi24. Its story mode is an arcade mode using clips from the anime with subtitles. Interesting that they decided to use Japanese voices when we have an English dub. Gameplay wise, it's your typical fighting game controls of having 6 attack buttons. It has 2 of each high, medium, and low attacks. I was able to perform some special moves, and while I'm not the best fighting game player, in my defense, I was playing this game with the keyboard. That is the only reason why I got my ass kicked a lot in this game. Yeah, that's why. Sadly, the last update was in 2025 and I don't think we'll be getting any more updates to it. It's still a cool game to have, and thank you to Aoshi24 for making it. While I did say the PSP version was the last official game, there was a phone game called Kengeki Kenran. It seems to be this beat 'em up you can play, but I can't say much about it. Like most older games, it's unplayable now since it's been discontinued. There was also this Arkanoid clone game released on PSN, but I wasn't able to get my hands on it either. If you want to play as Kenshin nowadays, you can see him as a playable character in the jump games like J-Star Victory Versus games, except for Jump Force. That game got delisted everywhere. You would think now that the series got a reboot we could see more games, but with the original creator's history, I don't think many people want to touch this franchise with a 10-foot pole. Now that we played every Kenshin game, let's rank them. In last place we have Ishin. It's a clunky fighting game that is outdated and slow with small rosters whose only saving grace is that it was the only Rurouni Kenshin game at the time. I can't expect much from a game that uses 2 of the face buttons for blocking. Next is Inbō Hen. It tried to be unique with rock paper scissors mechanics, but fights were a gamble of getting hit, and while I love gambling in games, this game takes it to the extreme by having it on every attack. Third place goes to Kyoto Circle of Hell. It had multiple characters to play as and a fun mechanic with the stance mode. Everything else was okay with its basic beat 'em up and story mode progression that I mostly skipped to get to the few good parts of the game. And second place is Saisen. Saisen is a decent fighting game that lets you play as your favorite Kenshin characters. It has some unique mechanics like the Divine Flash and the stance, but in the end, the fighting does not have a lot of depth to it. In first place, it's Kaizen. It's just a better version of Saisen that covers all the arcs of the manga with better presentation in the story mode. The health bar was double, making the hits feel more impactful, and a larger cast of 32 characters that also covered the Jinchu arc. It's always fun to go back and play these old games and see how they try to interpret the anime into games. I was a bit surprised by the rock paper scissors RPG, even if it was not good, or how much I enjoyed the stance from the PS2 games, even if the game was not that great. Even then, the PSP fighting games are better overall games. I would recommend someone play those games if you want to play a Rurouni Kenshin game. If you want to see me play more forgotten licensed games, I have done videos of all the Zatch Bell or Inuyasha games. But as always, my lovely patients, I thank you so much for watching and tune in next time. Bye.